Hello everybody, my name's Paul Tace. Today we are joined by Colin Froud. He's the senior instructor, or one of the senior instructors at iRed. And today we want to be looking at privacy. This is something that comes up in the CAP 722 quite frequently, but I don't feel it's very clearly defined. So I've called you on today and I was hoping to get some more information to know exactly if what we're doing is legal or not. Is there any advice you can offer us on that?
So the first thing we need to think about, Paul, is that if our drone carries a camera, that it can capture data, okay? And so we need to be mindful of how we use the data that we're capturing, okay? So if we're capturing images of people, that could be circumstantial, they just happen to be in the background, then the next thing we need to worry about is that for commercial purposes that we're flying, okay? Or is it just for pleasure? Okay, so it depends what we're going to do with that footage afterwards, because there are different rules and regulations that affect whether we are flying and selling those images for money or whether we're doing it just for fun. Okay. And the way we can find out more information about privacy is by going to the Information Commissioner's Office, which you can look that up online. And there's actually a leaflet, and it's all to do with CCTV cameras. Okay, and this covers everything from your video doorbells to cameras on drones. And depending, again, on whether you're using it for private use or using it for commercial gain, depends on the rules and regulations that you then have to follow. So common sense needs to come into this as well. Okay, so if you're singling someone out, okay, that would be an invasion of privacy, wouldn't it? We will all feel, ugh, I've been singled out. I don't like that very much. If it happened to us, we wouldn't be happy. Okay, got to think about that from other people's perspective as well. People see a drone in the air, they instantly think the drone is looking at them. Of course, it isn't half the time. Most of the time, we're shooting with a wide-angle camera anyway. And due to the high angle, okay, that the drone is flying at, and the camera angle that it's looking down at people, we're seeing people in a different perspective anyway. So
they looking at my board
or likewise. But so people's facial features aren't necessarily instantly recognizable. However, what they are doing, okay, or where they are, might make them recognizable. So this is something we need to be aware of as well. Okay. And if we come back to whether we're using it for commercial use, okay, or whether it's hobby use. So for hobby use, we just need to really just use common sense. Okay, if we fly from our back garden and we capture the neighbors accidentally, mowing the lawn or sunbathing or playing with the kids in the gardens either side of us, really we should not be sharing that information. And one way we can stop that, having that problem, is to not hit the record button for starters until we've got a camera in a position where we want to take the images without those people in it. So that's the easiest way to manage this sort of data, if you like, is by only hitting the record button when you are ready, and then you haven't got that issue. And this becomes even more important when you're a commercial operator, because people have the right to be able to approach you and ask you to see the footage with their features on that, okay? But the same rules actually apply to video doorbells, okay? So let's put this in perspective. So video doorbells, okay? A lot of people have them now, or CCTV at your home. Generally, it's going to be there to protect your premises. You're only really interested in anything that happens on your premises. But for instance, most of those are wide angle, so it's going to get the road beyond, and maybe the neighbors on the opposite side of the road, okay? So those people, if you're capturing their data, you shouldn't really, you've got to be really, really careful. But all of that is outlined within a really useful leaflet that's been produced by the Information Commissioner's Office. Okay, and I'll give you the link to that so that you can give it to your viewers.
Thanks. We'll drop it in the link down below.
Yeah, and then you can basically look at that information and just read the small paragraph about it, okay, about drones, and it will make everything a lot clearer for you. Okay, but when it comes to commercial use and gathering data in the commercial world, it's really important that you do not capture people's identities, really, okay, because that is an invasion of privacy if you do not have their permission. Okay, you must get their permission, basically, because it's for commercial use. That's the difference.
Okay, so I've got a quick question. So obviously we've got shooting privately and shooting commercially, but there may be like grey areas in the middle. Say, like for example, if you want to shoot for YouTube, you may not be making any money from it, but obviously you're publishing it to a wider audience. Do you know where these people stand?
Yeah, again, it depends what the images contain, really. So long as they don't contain images of people where you don't have their permission, then it's absolutely fine. Okay, so again, what we're talking about here is people recognizable. Okay, so again, because of the angle that we're looking at people generally, okay, it's going to be harder to recognize people. But you have to use a little bit of common sense here. Okay, we should have permission to capture images of people, okay, if we're going to publish them. Okay, we wouldn't want to see pictures of ourselves being used, okay, without our permission, would we? And it's the same thing, really. So the Information Commissioner's Office leaflet will give information, a little bit more clarity on that. Okay. So it's a very difficult subject, privacy, and a lot of it does come down to common sense. It really does. If you've got someone in the background who's incidental, okay, well, that's one thing. But if you're focusing on them, then you're picking them out from the crowd, then that's definitely an invasion of privacy. And it depends what that person's doing, whether they can be recognized, and that sort of thing.
It's quite a difficult one, isn't it? That's why I wanted to get you on. I sometimes get questions, and it's a very grey area, and it's very situational because it's going to be changing.
One of the things that we need to be aware of when we're dealing with capturing any sort of data is the GDPR. Okay, so anything to do with data needs to be dealt with properly, held securely. Okay, and basically the Information Commissioner's Office can give lots of information on how to do that. But part of GDPR is our right to access images of ourselves, our own personal data, okay, that other people may have. So we are within our rights to approach anybody with a CCTV camera, whether that's on a drone, on top of a mast, in the town centre, a video doorbell, okay, on a commercial premises. We have our right is to go and ask to see any images of ourselves on that. In order to do that, we need to give obviously a description of ourselves, when we were there, where we were, and obviously the time.
Okay, and again, is this commercial or is this just private? If
it's just mainly doorbell? Yeah, with the doorbell, it is, but most people aren't constantly recording the doorbell footage, and the only time that's ever going to be used really is if there's an incident, because that's the whole reason we're keeping it. Okay, so again, it comes down to why it's being taken in the first place.
Okay,
so privacy, it is an interesting subject. It is difficult to get your head around. Like I say, this leaflet by the ICO will help. Okay, I recommend everybody to read that section on drones. It's only a small section, okay, but it will help clear things up. And the rest of the leaflet does give very interesting information regarding privacy in general to do with CCTV cameras.
So when I was on the newspaper, as long as we was on public property, we could take a picture of someone. And once we had that picture, they had no right over it. So a lot of people would ask me to delete it. But technically that would have been trespassed a person. With our drones, in particularly in perspective of the CAA, do they have that permission with the new laws? Do they have that permission to make us delete pictures we may have or videos we may have of them?
It's an interesting one because, again, on the Information Commissioner Office website and in the leaflet, it does mention if you're a commercial operator that people have the right to ask you to remove any footage that may have them in it. So the short answer is yes, people could ask you to delete that. Now, the other side of that is if you're using it just for hobby flying, you're not going to be doing anything with that footage particular, not really sharing it with others, then it shouldn't be so much of an issue. Okay, but more information is available on the ICO website. Now, you mentioned the CAA. Now, I can give you the CAA's stance on privacy, okay, because I have had a chat with them about that. And they have a very pragmatic view and that falls in line with what most of us with a bit of common sense would do anyway. So basically, their view is that don't single anybody out. Okay, don't publish anything that you wouldn't want published yourself, kind of thing. And just think about what it is you're taking pictures of before you even hit the record button, and before you publish anything. And that's really, what it's about.
Okay, so like, is there any like quick, brief guidelines you could give us to keep us on the safe side of privacy?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're all going to see things in our cameras that we shouldn't see from time to time. So think about where you're flying. Okay, and think about what or who might be there and what they might be doing. Okay, don't hit the record button until you've got everything framed up the way that you want it. Okay, particularly those of you that are going to be filming creatively. It's quite normal practice just to leave the camera running, because you always get those shots in between of having the drone in one position to another. There's actually accidentally very usable and sometimes very good. Okay, so just think about hitting the record button to start and stop your footage. Same with photographs as well. Okay, if you're taking pictures, and obviously you've got a little bit more time to think about what's in the frame with photos, but with video, obviously it's happening there and then. It tends to be a dynamic, evolving situation. Okay, and that's where you're more likely to come foul, if you like, of privacy rather than photographs. And then store your data sensibly, really, and don't share anything with anybody that you think is would actually deem to be invading someone's privacy.
So with any of these pictures, if someone's too small to see, say for example, it's a lovely day, the sun's quite low, you've got these nice shadows, you're flying over someone, obviously they're going to be blacked out, but you'll get a nice shot of their shadow. That's not going to be privacy at all, is it? Because you're just not going to know who that is.
No, it's all about the identification of someone, isn't it, really? So as long as you can't identify them, then and that's not just by their facial features, but by what they might be doing. Okay, so and what I mean by that, they might be going about, they might be walking a dog, they might be flying a kite, they might be sweeping the road. It's what people are doing that makes them identifiable.
Okay, and are there any repercussions of breaking the law? Is it easy? Is there something that's going to be enforced?
Yeah, the Information Commissioner's Office can actually place enforcement against you. Okay, if you don't release, as a commercial operator, if you don't release images on someone's request. Okay, there's a recent case where a TV company was actually fined £120,000 for filming in a maternity ward with hidden cameras. They had put signs up to say that this filming was going on, okay, but it wasn't obvious to people, and they also wrongly stated that they would seek everyone's permission before any recording took place. However, everything's being recorded all of the time. What they really meant was that no footage would be used without their consent. Basically, that's what they should have said. But yeah, because of that failing, if you like, in communication, and the fact they were grabbing images without people's consent, they got fined £120,000.
Oh, okay.
So it could have repercussions on to drone users. Personally, I don't know of any thing at the moment, anyone that's been prosecuted for it. I mean, again, most of these things are going to be taken in a proportionate way, aren't they? As to, don't do it again, improve your systems kind of thing. You're more likely to get a slap on the wrist than a £120,000 fine. But again, it depends on what you're doing, doesn't it?
Okay. Lastly, I wanted to quickly look at schools. So if you're ever flying anywhere near a school, there's usually like a warning on whatever app you're using, or you'll find it on Drone Assist. There's a school around. Is it an invasion of privacy to film the school if there's no one in it, or can you fly, or is it something you should avoid altogether?
Well, my question would be, why are you filming the school, for starters? Why do you want to film the school?
Okay, so that was maybe like a bad example, because it just could have sinister situation.
It's not. No, it's not, because if it's for commercial reasons, then you should have permission from the school to do it. So if, for instance, you're grabbing images for the school for publicity or whatever, It's not a problem, is it? You're there, so that's not an issue. There are all sorts of other rules and regulations to do with filming minors, okay, and I don't want to go into that here because I don't have that kind of knowledge, because school things that happen on school premises are different, okay. However, remember, we're in the air with a drone, but it'd be, it's asking for trouble if you do, basically. I know of drone operators who have been filming at solar parks with a thermal camera, 500 meters away from a school, and the police have turned up to see what's going on because someone's reported a drone flying close to the school. So people are very protective and very sensitive about flying close to schools.
Okay, actually, the reason I actually brought this up is because I'm doing a commercial job where there's a potential for me flying the drone there. So, but obviously, I've got permission from the school, so it'll be different for me just like being a hobbyist and flying over it. Yes.
Yeah, normally, most parents would be able to answer this probably better than I. But yeah, normally you have to give consent, basically, for your offspring to have their photographs taken. It comes down to parental consent on that level. But again, I would just advise completely against getting any children in the background of any shot. Basically, it opens up a whole can of worms, okay, and people can get very
is that
passionate.
Commercially as well, if
any time really. I would parents can be very protective about their children and their invasion of their family life, and why not? We are all entitled to our privacy. Okay,
absolutely.
I would be no happier with a drone hovering over my back garden as anybody else. And when it comes to children, just stay away from them completely. You will just get yourself into a lot of bother. Okay, it might happen accidentally. Kids move fast, don't they, when they're running around on their bikes or scooters or whatever. But you just need to be aware. So again, it's down to your situational awareness, thinking what might happen, and sort of trying to come up with a plan in case the area that you're working in does suddenly become invaded with some children. What are you going to do? Well, you point your camera in the opposite direction for starters, or hit the stop button on your so you're not recording video footage anymore. You just use your common sense at the end of the day. Privacy is a complex subject, but it's not rocket science. Okay, a lot of it is common sense. Okay, just stay away from people as much as possible, and you won't have any issues at all. So one of the things that you can do to help with privacy is to make people aware that you are there, so you're not hiding. Okay, because that would be a privacy issue. Okay, so where high vis, maybe put some signs up or some cones out around your takeoff and landing area, just to make it visible, as to what's happening in the area. Okay, and then people have got a little bit of a choice, haven't they? Okay, they can see the drones there, and they might decide if they got the opportunity and the terrain allows for it, they might decide to move away from you, leave you alone, or they might ask you to move away.
Okay.
It depends on where you are and the circumstances and all sorts of things, really. But again, if you're not hiding, okay, you're being obvious what you're doing, then you're probably less likely to get problems with privacy. Just for that simple reason.
Okay, so what I've taken away from this is to be visible, to only record if it's necessary or something you want to use. Just try to avoid people if you can. Make sure they're not identifiable in any way, not just the face by actions, and only publish it if it's necessary, or if you do want to publish it, again, just use your common sense. That's the biggest one. Use your common sense. Don't do anything stupid. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
No, I think you've wrapped it up in a nutshell, really. All I would recommend people do is go and have a look at that information leaflet on the ICO regarding CCTV and have a good read of it, really, and also have a good explore of the ICO website, because there's lots of other nuggets of information on there as well.
Lovely. Thanks for your time. Really appreciate it. That's it for this video. I hope to see you in the next one.
Take a moment and don't get the giggles, because if I start laughing, then I'll set you off, and then we'll never get anything done this afternoon at all.
Your managers will be really impressed with that. Send them an hour of laughing at each other.
Yeah, what can I say?